By the time the men of Odu Village arrived at Nneka's hut, the smell of cooking soup was thick in the air, but no one could taste it. They stood outside, silent, their eyes shifting between the bubbling pot and the young woman who stirred it. The whispers had started at the market earlier that morning. At first, it sounded like another silly rumor. But as the words passed from ear to ear, the story grew teeth. She cut it off. She cut off her husband's thing. She's boiling it in that pot right now. No one dared enter the hut yet. Because if it was true, then something far darker than hunger had come to Odu Village. The sun was setting behind the towering palm trees, its golden light spilling across the winding footpaths of Odu Village. The air was thick with the smell of burning firewood, mingled with the faint sweetness of fermenting palm wine drifting from the tapper's hut. It was the kind of evening where the sky glowed in deep orange and purple, where the sound of pestles pounding yam echoed between mud-walled huts, and where life moved at the same unhurried pace it always had. But that day, something would happen that would feed the villagers' gossip fires for months to come. Nneka was at the doorway of her hut, a woven basket of peppers and onions by her feet. Her wrapper was tied tightly around her waist, and a single bead of sweat trickled down her temple as she sliced vegetables with practiced precision. She had been married to Okoro for 10 years. In that time, she had learned that marriage was as much about patience as it was about love. Okoro was respected in the village, tall, broad-shouldered, a hunter whose voice could carry across the fields. He was known to provide for his family, to bring home bushmeat when others returned empty-handed. But she also knew his other side, the one that went quiet for days when offended, the one whose pride made him unpredictable. That morning, Okoro had promised her something special. "I will bring home goat meat today," he'd said, lifting his spear and giving her that confident smile he wore when he was sure of himself. Goat meat was a rare luxury, something that could turn an ordinary evening into a celebration. Nneka had already imagined the stew, rich with palm oil, thick with peppers, and scented with ground crayfish. She had told Mama Ijeoma, her chatty neighbor, "Tonight, we shall eat like chiefs," but as the sun slid lower and the shadows of the coconut trees stretched longer, Okoro had not returned. Nneka stirred a pot of hot palm oil and onions with growing impatience. The fire popped, sending sparks into the dim air. Her stomach was not just hungry, it was restless with irritation. What if he had stopped at the palm wine tapper's place again? What if he had forgotten the promise? The stew she had planned now sat incomplete, waiting for the one ingredient that would transform it. When Okoro finally stepped into the doorway, the last light of the day outlined his tall frame. His face was tired, his shirt clung to him with sweat. But his hands were empty. No goat meat. No triumphant smile. Just the quiet shuffle of a man who knew he had not delivered. "Where is the meat?" Nneka's voice was sharper than she intended. She had been waiting for hours. Okoro dropped onto the wooden stool with a sigh. The hills were empty. "I chased 2 goats, but they escaped. The traps I set caught nothing. Not your fault," she repeated, her hand tightening on the spoon. "Do you know how I planned this stew? Do you know how I told the neighbors?" He cut her off, his eyes narrowing. "So one day of bad luck, and you speak to me as if I am useless. Have I not provided before?" The fire cracked between them. She turned back to her pot, stirring with more force than needed. His silence was heavy, but so was hers. They ate plain yam that night, the taste as bland as the air between them. The next morning, Okoro left before the sun was fully up. Nneka didn't ask where he was going, she knew. This time, he returned in the afternoon carrying something wrapped in banana leaves. There was a small smile on his face, an unspoken truce. "What is it?" she asked, eyeing the bundle. "Goat meat," he said simply, "fresh." "I told you I wouldn't fail twice." The rich, earthy smell wafted up as she unwrapped the leaves. Her irritation softened. She set to work at once, slicing the meat, washing it, seasoning it with salt, pepper, and ground crayfish. She added diced onions and palm oil, letting the mixture simmer over slow fire until the aroma filled the hut and slipped into the village air. Even the children passing outside murmured, "Nneka is cooking something sweet today." By evening, the table was set. Okoro washed his hands, ready for the feast. Nneka served him generously, giving him more meat than yam. The first bite was tender, rich in flavor. But there was something about the texture, something she couldn't place. She brushed the thought aside, focusing on the warmth spreading from her full stomach. Mama Ijeoma entered, drawn by the smell. This smells like a wedding feast," she teased. But as she glanced into the pot, her smile faltered. Her eyes narrowed. "Okoro, where did you get this meat?" she asked, voice to casual. "I hunted it," he replied, taking another bite. Mama Ijeoma tilted her head. "Hunted? There are no goats in the hills this week. I passed there myself. And this meat does not look like goat." Nneka's spoon stopped halfway to her mouth. "What do you mean?" she asked, her chest tightening. "I mean," Mama Ijeoma said slowly, "this looks like the meat from Chief Obi's missing goat, the air froze." Nneka's mind flashed to the empty pen she'd seen that morning near the chiefess hut. She turned to Okoro, her voice barely a whisper. Okoro, he didn't meet her eyes. His jaw tightened, his silence heavy as a stone. The taste in Nneka's mouth turned bitter. The stew that had once smelled like a celebration now clung to her tongue like ashes. She set her spoon down, her appetite gone. "I would rather have eaten plain yam," she said softly, "than taste this." The words hung between them, trembling like the flame of a dying lamp. Outside, the night insects sang, oblivious to the storm brewing in their small hut. 2 days later, the chief summoned Nneka and Okoro to his compound. The men of Odu Village had gathered, their faces grim beneath the shade of the raffia palm. The chief sat on his mat, his gaze unwavering. He spoke in the measured tones of a man who had seen many storms. "This is a serious matter," he said, his words echoing in the hushed silence. "A goat belonging to one of my wives has gone missing. And I believe Okoro knows something about it." Okoro flinched, his eyes flickering towards Nneka. Before he could speak, the chief raised a hand. Silence. "I do not want lies. Tell me what you know about this goat." Okoro looked down at his feet, his shoulders slumping. I killed the goat." "I confess," a murmur rippled through the crowd. Nneka felt a surge of anger towards her husband. He had ruined her, her family, their lives. But the chief was not finished. "Why did you kill the goat, Okoro? You know the consequences of stealing in our village." Okoro lifted his head, his eyes blazing. "It was an accident, Your Honor. I meant to trap a bushbuck. I swear it. The goat just happened to be there. I never meant to steal. An accident," the chief's voice boomed. "You say the most precious animal in my compound died accidentally? Do you take me for a fool?" Okoro stood rooted to the spot, unable to meet the chief's furious gaze. Nneka knew her husband was a good hunter, but she had never seen him like this, defeated, broken. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. Finally, the chief spoke again, his voice calmer but no less firm. "As for you, Nneka, wife of Okoro, you have shown a lack of respect to your husband and to this village. You questioned the meat he brought without considering the source. For this, I banish you from our village for 1 week. You are to live with your mother during this time." Nneka stared at the chief in disbelief. A whole week away from Okoro, away from their hut, away from their lives. She opened her mouth to protest, but the chief held up a hand. "There is no discussion. Go now and reflect on your actions.